Justice, are you there?
I'm here.
Go right ahead.
This is Justice, and this show is going to be called The Justice Show. I don't have anything else to say. Do you have anything to say?
Would you like to tell the folks listening some of the things we're going to talk about today?
We are going to be talking about replacing white supremacy with justice.
Outstanding. Outstanding. This is Gus T Renegade, Context of White Supremacy, doing the Justice Show. Brand new co-host, Justice, requested to do a program today to share some of her thoughts about racism, white supremacy, and how to replace that with justice. And we also wanted to share some of our thoughts on the previous show that we had on Monday of this week with the admitted white supremacist known as Jessica Pettitt. Before we get started, how are you doing today, Justice?
I'm doing fine, and can you say that again a little more?
I was just curious as to how you're doing today, and just how your day is going. Are you enjoying yourself?
Yes, I am.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Since you just had your first show on the C.O.W.S earlier this week, do you have any thoughts, anything you would like to share about your first show? If you learned anything, just any thoughts or feelings you have about the show we did a couple days ago with Jessica Pettitt?
I know the way how I felt, it was Jessica Pettitt was kind of being a little, she wasn't talking nicely to me and Gus.
Wasn't talking nicely to us.
And I felt that was really rude, and she could have talked a little bit more nicer.
Very interesting. Jessica Pettitt, she sent me an email early this morning. For everyone, if you are tuning in the chat room, Justice X and Journey 1, everyone in the chat room, thank you for supporting the C.O.W.S. You can check out the letter that Jessica Pettitt emailed about her feelings on the program. The link is in the chat room. If you are not listening live to this show at Blog Talk Radio, you can go to the Facebook group for the C.O.W.S, and all you have to do is go to the show page for the Context of White Supremacy, and that is at blogtalkradio.com/victim-of-racism, and you will see a link for Facebook. Click that link, and it will take you to the Facebook group for the C.O.W.S, and you will see a link, and it has Jessica Pettitt says. You'll be able to read that email in its entirety. Jessica Pettitt, I want to quote her directly. She said, this is Jessica talking, Jessica Pettitt, admitted white supremacist. I also felt that Gus and one of the callers that addressed Justice directly were condescending and rude to her leaving me no choice but to advocate for her voice to be heard. That's directly from Jessica Pettitt. Justice, did you think I was being rude to you on the show we did with Jessica Pettitt?
No.
Did you think any of the callers were rude to you on the show with Jessica Pettitt?
No.
Did you think Jessica Pettitt was being rude?
Yes.
Very interesting. Jessica Pettitt thinks that I was being rude to you on the show. Very, very interesting. I want to point out for anyone who did not hear that show, Jessica Pettitt was using profanity on that show. And I pointed out, we have a 10-year-old here. That isn't really appropriate for a 10-year-old. She did not apologize, or I don't recall her apologizing or even acknowledging, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be cursing with a 10-year-old on the line. I don't recall her saying that at all. But she made sure to point out that she felt I was being rude to Justice. Very interesting. Jessica Pettitt also said that using the term victim and describing yourself as retarded is foolish. Direct quote from Jessica Pettitt, and anyone can check out her entire message. As I said, just going to the Facebook link. I have used the term victim of white supremacy for the duration of the C.O.W.S radio show. It is on every program I have done, including the first time Jessica Pettitt was on the C.O.W.S. She has never, ever said that there was anything incorrect about the use of that term or that the use of that term is foolish. If she felt that way, I think it's interesting that she made no effort to point that out on the actual program. She waited to send this in an email after her second visit to the Context of White Supremacy radio show. I find that very interesting. I will ask, Justice, do you feel as a non-white person you have been mistreated by white people because you are not white?
Yes, I have been mistreated by a lot of white people. Unfortunately, I too have been mistreated by a lot of white people because I am not white. Unfortunately, that means both you and I would be victims of white supremacy. I don't know if that's foolish. I would maybe need her to tell me what foolish means. Unfortunately, that would be true for both of us, that we are indeed victims of white supremacy. I find it very interesting that an admitted white supremacist would say it is foolish to say that you are a victim of white supremacy. If there's a system of racism, gotta have victims. I mean, I don't know. That I just found that very interesting. I found the whole letter interesting. I don't want to take up a whole lot of time to address the entire email. I found those 2 points particularly interesting, along with the rest of the things that she expressed in the email. Please check it out. You can leave comments, or you can even call into today's show if you would like to share your thoughts if you read the email or are checking it out now. You had your first show. I will ask, Justice, is there anything else, any other thoughts that you had about the show we did on Monday, whether it's if you learned something constructive, if Jessica Pettitt, if she shared some information that you thought was helpful, you could tell us that, or anything else that you felt about Monday's show. I enjoyed that Monday show, and I have anything.
I'll think of some more.
Okay.
I don't know anything right now.
Okay. I know we spoke after the show, and you were also talking about ways that you see racism, white supremacy when you go to school. Would you want to share any of those experiences with our listeners in terms of how you see racism, white supremacy when you're at school?
Sure.
Okay.
When I'm at school, anyways, at my school, there is bunches of white people there, and I don't know if the younger white people my age know about white supremacy, so that's why I'm saying that when I'm talking, because I get mistreated a lot at school, and I feel like that. Sometimes I ask my classmates, my non-white classmates, saying, this white person, well, I wouldn't say this white person, but he or she is mistreating me in this or that way. And they don't understand about white supremacy at all. Because I'm supposing that they don't know about white supremacy.
When you tell people that you are being mistreated, do the teachers or other people at school, do they work to correct the situation so that you are not being mistreated anymore?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Okay.
Can you say it again?
Sure. When you're at school and you say, hey, I'm being mistreated, do your teachers or do other people at school, do they work to correct the problem so that you are not being mistreated anymore?
No, they just don't do anything about it.
That's not cool. That's not cool. Wow. Unfortunately, I think a lot of non-white people end up being in that situation where they are being mistreated and nobody does anything about it. Not cool at all. Do you tell the teacher when you're being mistreated? Do you go to the teacher to say that you're being mistreated?
Sometimes yes, but when I go to my teacher, because my last teacher, she was a non-white person, and that was the only non-white teacher that I've ever had, and I go to her, but she says that's a tattletale, and then the other time I said, because my dad told me that you should say, this is a report. And then I said it was a report, but I said it was for somebody else. Because, I made a mistake. And then, so I said it was for somebody else. And so she didn't do anything about it. She said, no, it's a tattletale.
Very interesting. What I would do if I was being mistreated and I went to the teacher, I was like, hey, I'm being mistreated. I need some help because I'm being mistreated. And they said, well, you're being a tattletale. I would say, okay, so what should I do about being mistreated if, you're not going to do anything about this? What should I do? And I would wait to see what the teacher said. And then I would go do that. If I'm sitting in the back and another kid is, taking my pencils and I can't write, I can't do my work, they keep taking my pencils, and I go tell the teacher, and the teacher says, you're being a tattletale, go sit down, go be quiet,
say, okay, well, kid keeps taking my pencils. What should I do about that? And I would wait to see what they said. They said, take them back. I'd say, okay, that means I can just go take the pencils back. Anytime my pencil's taken, I can do whatever I need to do to take my pencils back. No problem. And I would make sure that I let everyone know. I went and I asked, what should I do when my pencils are being taken? Teacher said, just go take the pencils back. I would do whatever they said to do. But, I mean, that's terrible. The teacher should. I would think that's their job. They're supposed to step in to make sure that you're being treated correctly while you're at school, I would think. I could be wrong.
I agree that. I agree.
Sad. You sound like you are doing well, though. You also, are you going to be hanging out, because we have another show tomorrow with another gentleman. He is also a teacher. He teaches at Howard University. That is a big school in Washington, D.C. He is going to be on the show tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And for Justice X, that will be 11 p.m. in Austria. So you can tune in. That'll be 11 p.m. your time. So, yeah, that's tomorrow. Justice, are you going to be hanging out with us for that show?
Yes.
Outstanding. This will be a lot of fun. Frank Wu, he is a so-called Asian person. He has written a book about racism and white supremacy, and he talks about how he has been mistreated by white people, and he talks about black people and how they have been mistreated. Very interesting book. I think he is very informed about racism, and I think he will have a lot of helpful information to share with us tomorrow on the show. Do you think you'll have some questions for Frank Wu tomorrow?
Yes, I would have some questions. I can't think of any right now, but because I'm gonna have to. So I'm gonna have to know him more.
Me too. I don't have questions right now for Frank Wu, but by tomorrow, 11 p.m. Vienna time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, I will have a lot of questions for Mr. Frank Wu. I am very much looking forward to talking to him on the program tomorrow. Also, Monday, when Justice and Gus did the show, I know you asked Jessica Pettitt, you asked her a lot of excellent questions, and I noticed that at least once you asked her a question and she did not answer your question.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go right ahead.
Okay. I remember that question because my dad told me about that. She said benefit, and I didn't say benefit. I said, I don't have it. Well, I don't remember the question right now, but she said benefit, and I didn't say benefit, and so I just noticed that. So, yeah, sorry about that I didn't understand it yesterday. On Monday, sorry.
No apologies necessary. None at all. I am still learning. I make a lot of mistakes too. White people get me too sometimes. I ask questions and they talk for a long time and they have not answered my question. I am sure it has happened here on the context of white supremacy. I'm sure it has happened multiple times. So no apologies. I make that mistake too. But I do try to get better at it because that's one way
that I think white people practice racism is that they do not answer questions when non-white people ask them, for help. I have questions. I have things I don't understand, and you ask them, help me out. I have some questions here, and then they don't answer your question. So that's something that I think all non-white people need to get better at, being able to catch when white people don't answer their questions. So what I'm going to do from now on, when you and I do shows, Justice, when you ask a question, I am not going to say, wait a minute, you didn't answer Justice's question, because I did that on Monday at least once. And I'm not going to do that anymore. That way, you will be in charge of making sure that the white people, or if it's a non-white person, because tomorrow I guess it's non-white, you will be in charge of making sure your question gets answered.
Okay. And as far as, because this is like my third show already. I don't know if I might or might not get this right, but sometimes I don't get, because sometimes I know that Jessica Pettitt, she was talking, and then I didn't really feel like that was the right time so I can talk, because I didn't really want to interrupt her, and so that's why I didn't really have that much to say.
Okay. I know that feeling too. It can be tough because you want to be courteous, you don't want to interrupt people, and you want to let them talk and answer your question or finish their statement. And it can be tough. But I think you can do it courteously. It's not about being rude or yelling at anyone. It's just you wait until the person is finished, and then just very politely, very calmly, excuse me, sir, or excuse me, ma'am. I don't think that you answered my question. Maybe you did. Maybe I just didn't understand. I would appreciate it if you could, perhaps give it one more try at answering my question so that I get clear understanding in what you say. And no one who is interested in practicing justice, no one who is interested in doing the correct thing will have a problem with that. If you don't, and this should be for the rest of your life, no matter if you're 99, if you have a question, you ask someone a question, and they answer it, and you don't understand, nobody should be upset with you saying, "Hey, I just didn't understand your answer. Would you mind just trying again so that I can understand what you're saying?"
Yes. Do you wanna wait? Do you want me to say the question, or you? What question did I miss?
Oh, no. I'm not saying you missed a question at all. I'm just saying in the future, if people don't answer your question, you can go about it really politely and ask them to repeat their answer so that you understand. Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah. You did fine. You did a great job on Monday. And you said that you felt you had other questions, but you didn't get an opportunity to talk once the people called into the show. Is that right?
I didn't have any more questions, but I wanted to talk. I wanted more to talk, but I'm fine now. I don't need any more to talk on the Monday show.
Oh, okay. Right on. Yeah, we can. Monday's on. We expressed our views on that. My final thought for Monday, Jessica Pettitt, she also commented that she felt that justice was being fed questions, and at this point, the number of shows I have done with white people, I don't even feel the need to dignify that with saying anything further that someone would think I would need to get a 10-year-old or anyone else to hide behind to get them to ask questions of a white person at this point. So, yeah, we're done with Monday. Moving forward, hopefully we will have a great show tomorrow with Frank Wu. And I also have a show, or we, I guess, could have a show this Sunday because Dorothy Roberts, she's going to be here. She is also a non-white person. She's going to be talking about her book, and she wrote all about how non-white people, black people in particular, have been mistreated. She's going to be on the show on Sunday.
Okay.
It's at 1:30 our time. So if you want to hang out for that show, you are more than welcome. Do you?
I'll be on it.
Okay. That being Gus and Justice will be here Sunday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific, and that will be 10:30 for my pal all the way in Vienna, Justice X. That will be 10:30 p.m. For Justice X. You can tune into the show this Sunday for Dorothy Roberts. She is a professor at Northwestern. She'll be talking about how the system of white supremacy has abused black people and black females in particular and their ability to have children. She'll be talking about that on Sunday, and Justice Gus will be here for that show. Let's see, do you want to see if we have any callers, if anyone has called in and they have a question for you or for me?
Yes, but before we call in, or if other people want to call in, I have something to say.
Go right ahead.
Well, as far as, what time is the Sunday show?
The Sunday show will be at 1:30 in the afternoon, our time, 1:30 in the afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then if there's any callers, ask questions, or that'll be fine.
Okie dokie. I will, if you give me 1 second, I will go and check and see if we have anyone on the line with a question or comment for Justice or Gus. If you want to chat about anything in the meantime, feel free if you would like to share anything with the listeners, and I will be right back.
Okay.
You guys are well. If you, I mean, you guys are well. I don't know if you just want to take them. If you're like, well, take for a ride out there. Okay. Yeah, I'll leave. Go ahead. Go ahead. I mean, you're gonna drive. I expect you. If you want to buy it, I expect you to drive. You work for that? No, you know, don't. Go ahead. Okay. All right.
And 301, are you there? Let's see, 301, I see you with a hand up. You should be on. Are you there? Oh, I may have messed up something. I will double check. Let's see.
301 me.
All right, let's try that again. 301, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Hi, this is Jamal again. How you doing?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
Right. I have two questions. This is one that's directed at Justice. How did you feel about the show overall? Hello?
Yes, sir. Justice, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Shoot your question again, Mr. Hill.
I wanted to know, how did she feel about the show overall, and did Is that the first time she felt a white person get very hostile towards her, or towards any other non-white? Hello?
Yes, sir. Justice, did you hear his question?
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear it.
Okay. He asked, number one, how did you feel about the show on Monday? And his second question was, is that the first time that you have seen or had a white person become angry with non-white people?
No, that was not the first time.
Okay. And I guess, how did you feel about the show overall on Monday?
I felt that show was great, and how I felt about Jessica Pettitt. She was a little... She wasn't being appropriate around any us non-white people, especially me. I'm only 10, so that's how I felt.
Does that answer your questions, Mr.
Yeah,
Hill?
I just wanted to get a understanding where she was coming from. I wasn't really shocked, but I was kind of, she had great information the first time around. I don't know what happened in this call on Monday. Her information was very productive and constructive, but I don't know what happened the last time, this time around. Do you know why she was, the thing with 10 wives? Are they supposed to be great friends or something?
I do not know. I believe that she told me that she does know Tim Wise, that they have met in person and talked. So I don't know. They might be good friends, but I really don't know. I do know that, and you can read the email that she... Oh, okay. She said she was not pleased about Justice co-hosting and her not being informed about that beforehand. And I didn't tell anyone about that beforehand. I wanted that to be a surprise for everyone, listeners included. So I don't know. It could have been she wasn't happy about not being informed that Justice was going to be co-hosting. She could have been upset about my comments or my views on Mr. Tim Wise. I don't know. I don't really know. That would be a good question for and her email is available. She has her information on her website. You can feel free, shoot her an email. Maybe she will share that information with you.
Okay, because I didn't really. I thought she. It's really hard to put in words, and what I'm trying to relay is this. Now, on the show, what was the show about? Was it about what she's written, or was it just about on any topic?
I had in mind, I wanted to go over other items that she had in the essay that she wrote, Showing Up White. There were other things in that essay that I wanted to touch on, and I wanted to get better understanding about what it means to be a white person in a system of white supremacy. Those were two of the main things that I wanted to do. I knew Justice, it was going to be her first show, so I knew she was going to have questions, and it was kind of going to be a new experience for both of us, so I didn't want to do too much, but those were two key things that I wanted to do. And I guess we got to do a small amount of that, but not as much as I wanted. The Tim Wise thing, I think, really ended up taking a lot more time than I wanted, and the initial question that Justice asked, which was fabulous, do all white people practice racism? That question ended up taking a lot of time, in particular because she didn't answer it. until maybe 10 minutes went by in the program, and she said, yes, all white people practice racism, but she had taken, 10, 15 minutes talking about white people benefiting, and as Justice pointed out, she didn't ask about white people benefiting. That wasn't the question. She didn't ask about white people being conscious. What she asked was, do all white people practice racism?
Right. I have two more questions. Is it possible?
Go right ahead. I will check. 313, you're on the line. Do you have a question or comment? Okay. I don't hear anyone on 313. So yes, go right ahead, sir, if you have two more.
The guy tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
He works at Howard University, correct?
Yes, sir.
And his book is on mistreatment of non-white people, right?
Yes, sir. So-called Asian people specifically, but he does talk about all non-white people being mistreated, yes.
So how did you get him on the show?
I asked him. If you want a simple one.
Oh.
I'm sorry?
Sorry?
I said, if you want a simple answer, I asked him, and he said yes.
Okay.
If you want a simple answer. Yeah, the same process for everybody else. I asked him, he said yes. I don't remember at what point I decided he would be an interesting person to talk to. I had been aware of his book for a while. But yeah, I think I had been talking to a lot of so-called Asian people, and I had been saying for a while I wanted to get more non-black victims of white supremacy on the program, and I had been, just looking for people that, I thought would have constructive information to share, and Frank Wu came to mind, and he was willing, so I asked, he said yes, and it'll go down tomorrow.
I have another, this is my last question. Did you check out her name is Engineer 7? Hello?
Cree 7? Counter-racist evolving engineer?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know her well.
The show with Scotty Lowe?
Yes, sir. I listened to it live. Yes, sir.
What did you think about this show? Because I really wanted to find out. What did you think about this show? Because I've heard it too.
I thought Cree 7 did a excellent job hosting the program. I think she shared a lot. Scotty Lowe, I think, shared a lot of very interesting information that I think a lot of non-white people probably aren't familiar with, because I get the impression a lot of non-white people, that's a subject that they just aren't familiar with. I know myself, that's something I just wasn't aware of. I hadn't really studied that whole type of writing, and especially how white people respond to that type of writing, and white people being so interested in that sort of writing. I believe she said that her site was generating 1 million hits a month. That could be incorrect. I don't want anybody to quote me, but I believe that was what she said. She was generating a lot of traffic, and I believe she gave the impression that it was a lot of white people checking out her work and just being very enthralled. So I wish more non-white people would check that out. I hope tons of non-white people will check out Cree 7's show. She's here on Blog Talk Radio, Counter-Racist Evolving Engineer. She has another show on August 16th at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. But I thought it was very interesting, and I think it again goes to one of the core themes in racism, white supremacy, and that is the 8th area of activity, sex. I think it shows the importance if non-white people could, understand why it is incorrect for non-white people to have sex with white people. So, I thought it was very interesting. I'm appreciative that they both were able to do the show, and I hope more non-white people will check it out.
If it's possible, if you get a chance to talk to her, I think you should. Could you ask her to ring her back?
Scotty Lowe?
Yeah.
Yes, I can do that. It would probably be best if we both asked her to bring her back. If you shot her, you can, I'm sure, send her a message on her site, or you can hit her blog. I actually have her blog linked on my show page, so her contact information should be in one of those two spots.
Because I was like, only thing I really didn't get is the history behind the different... let's say, the genres of what she was going through. If I didn't really get a historic value of how it started and where it came from, and exactly what is it? I mean, was it developed and all those certain things.
I don't know either, but I think that would be a good one to have a callback. So yeah, I will let her know that listeners have expressed an interest and they would like her to come back. I'll let her know that today. As a matter of fact, I'll shoot her a message, and if you shoot her one too, maybe she'll get on that. Maybe she'll make that the next show after her show on August 16th.
Is anyone else on the line? You might.
I will investigate. Give me 2 seconds, and I'll see. Okay, 313, are you there?
Yes.
Go right ahead if you have a question or comment.
And how are you this evening?
I am as well as can be expected under the system of white supremacy as a non-white male.
Okay. Well, I'm going to assume that you have read the textbook workbook by Neely Fuller.
I have read it, and I have had him on my show, yes.
Oh, have you?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, very good. Because I just wanted to share that in my reading of his textbook, I realized that it is on us, on the victims of white supremacy. I choose not to call myself a victim, but according to Neely Fuller, the victims of white supremacy maintain white supremacy by submitting to their policies, their everyday activities. We are submitting to it. If we go and get married, if we get divorced, and as you spoke of sex, education, religion, all of these things, we submit to their ideology, and so we have to begin to pull away from it. The God concept, all of this has us enthralled in white supremacy, that we really recognize that. What do you think about that? My question. Do we recognize or maintaining it?
I think most of the non-white people do not understand that we are in a system of white supremacy, and that pretty much everything we do, as you said, works to maintain that system. I don't think most non-white people understand that. And I hope that with my show and with Cree7, her show, as the caller brought up, and the work that Mr. Edward Williams is doing at counter-racism.com, and so many other non-white people, Mr. Fuller, Dr. Francis Cress-Welsing, that more non-white people will get a better understanding of the system of racism, white supremacy, and will work to counter that in what they do every day and how they think, speak, and act. So, no, I don't think most non-white people are aware of that, but I hope that if we are all effective in countering that, more non-white people will become aware of that and will change their behavior accordingly. You can hang on. I just want to check to make sure, Justice, because she said she didn't get an opportunity to ask questions or make comments when people called in the other day, so I want to check. Justice, do you have a question or comment that you would like to say?
Hello?
I said, yes, ma'am. Do you have a question or comment? Because I want to make sure that you don't get left out here.
I don't have any questions or comments right now. Oh, wait. I do have a question. What time was the Sunday show?
The Sunday show is at 1:30 our time. That's for people on the West Coast, and it's at 4:30 for people on the East Coast. But for you, Justice, you and me, it'll be at 1:30 on Sunday.
Okay, thanks.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Now this young lady, Justice, is this a child?
Justice, would you like to tell her how old you are?
I am 10.
You're 10 years old?
Yes.
And you are a white girl?
No, I'm a non-white.
You're non-white?
Yes.
Okay. And you have experienced racism?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And how? And what did it look like? What took place?
What took place in what?
I'm asking, what was your experience?
My experience was that non-white people have been mistreated than more white people, and non-white people don't just get the same kind of things as white people. That is what.
Okay. Have you seen something happen to your parents or your uncle?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and you've seen them discriminated?
What does discriminated mean?
Or you seen them in the midst of some racism?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I was just curious. She sounded young, and I know that for myself, the first thing that I had to do to understand what was going on was that I had to study the history of our oppressor. And then that gave me a clearer view of my heritage, okay? When I read about my history and my people, I was able to see even my history inside of our European history, okay? History is foundational. We need to know who we are to better understand where we are. And I think that during the enslavement period, those people who had plantations and white people generally, even though they didn't have slaves, they benefited from slavery. If it was just that we bowed and scraped in front of them, or laughed when nothing was funny, or scratched when nothing was itching. So, and even today, generations removed from the enslavement period, we have people who are benefiting from that legacy of wealth and prosperity, and then we have those who are experiencing the legacy of our ancestors, which is burden, a great big burden placed on my shoulders, okay? So we have to know our history, okay, because it hasn't changed. Nothing has changed even into today. The same prejudice ideas about black people, about the indigenous people of America, of people of color, those still remain. So that's what I wanted to share.
Oh, well, I thank you. I thank you for your commentary. I agree, and becoming informed about how the system of racism, white supremacy, what they have done, what they are doing, I think that is critical, and hopefully as we become more informed, we will function a little better, the non-white people, and that will aid us in replacing white supremacy with justice.
Right, and if I could just leave, before I leave, let me share. There was a sister by the name of Sharcy McIntyre, and she wrote the book called the Criminalization of a Race. And it went and it dealt with all non-white people, okay? Being criminalized. And it's a very good book. She passed, I believe, in the 90s. Her book, I believe, is still in print. And it really gives you a good feel on how the whole penitentiary system came into effect, you know. How the so-called emancipated black person, because he was, you know, supposedly set free, he had no family connection, had been torn apart, you know, he had to go find him some place to live and be ready to pay rent the next week, okay? And so our history is so rich with information. You know how the essence of black people, we're more connected with the universe, and white people are very linear, you know, very material. You know, if they can't see it, it doesn't exist. And we are in tune with the unseen as well as the seen. So, I mean, there are things that we can see that shows you the differences. You know, you can almost predict what a person of color will do and what a person without color will do.
Excuse me?
Hello?
Yes.
I think he had a question.
Oh, did you have a question, Justice, or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Go right ahead.
What you said earlier about prejudice and rich, what do you mean by those two words?
Prejudice and what other word?
Rich.
Rich?
Yes.
Okay. You said the word rich? R-I-C-H?
Yeah, I think you said we had a rich history.
Oh, we have a very rich history because...
Right, but you want to know what's the word.
Okay, when I say we have a rich history, I'm saying that we had history before we were enslaved in the Americas, that there were indigenous black people here in the Americas, and when I say Americas, I mean South, Central, and North America. There were already indigenous black people on the land who had built great civilizations. We can talk about the Olmec, which goes all the way back to 500 BC. So there were people here when the European Columbus or Cologne sailed to these shores. These were rich people. They understood the constellations of the heavens, similar to the people of the Dogon from the continent of Africa. They saw the heavens with their naked eye. They built great civilizations. We don't know how old we are. There are estimates that the Sphinx in Egypt is 60,000 years old, carbon dated. So when I say that we have a rich history, I'm saying people of color all over the planet have a rich culture that has existed on the planet without polluting the air, the water, the earth for thousands and thousands of years. That's what I say. That's what I mean when I say a rich history. In the last 100 years, the ocean, the air, the earth is so polluted. It's so polluted. Trash everywhere. So, you know, there's a rich history because you can look back at people and see a building of the people, a productivity of the people, an ascending of the people, not material based, but they connected with the universe and all the animals on the planet. Don't you think that's rich?
Yeah.
I think that's rich. Yes, and that's the kind of history we have to go back and dig up.
Hello?
Because that's our history. It connects us to the land. And this is a fight that we're having with white supremacists. The fight for land and resources. And when you can connect yourself to the land, then you can stand on it. But if you can't connect yourself to land, that means that you're always going to be shuffled around. So we need to know who we are, and we need to be able to connect ourselves to land. And study, young sister. That's the best thing that you can do, because we have work unfinished that our ancestors didn't complete. You know, we say we don't have a purpose. What is my purpose here on earth? Well, your grandmother and your great-grandmother and your great-great-great-grandmother, your great-grandfather, your great-great-great-grandfather has unfinished business. And it might be just that you have to get their land back and call on their name so that they can give you insight onto who you're dealing with on the planet, because they knew this person. You know what I'm saying? Look at all the monuments that are being unearthed today. Our ancestors built all kinds of wonderful monuments to give reverence to who they were and what they represented. Now, these things are being unearthed every day.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I can go on and on with this. My own inspiration is to inspire young people to learn who they are and study history. It's very important.
I ask you one more question.
Yes, sir.
She wanted to know what was prejudice.
Prejudice is when you have a bias. Say like this. You go to school, you have your own friends, right? People that are like you, who you can talk to and you're friendly with. And you might have someone come into the school completely foreign, broken English. They might have another language that they're fluent in.
Hello?
They might dress differently. They might be a person who comes from a home where they might not put deodorant on, so then you can smell the body odor. But this is their culture. They don't put deodorant on. So when they come into a room, you say, oh, my goodness, who is that? Why did they come in there smelling like this? You know, without ever having a conversation with that person, learning their culture.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
And you've already set up a bias. Or you listen to someone else's biases or prejudices. That your family might tell you, listen, you don't deal with dark people. You're getting too old to be rolling around in the grass with black folks. You know, that's a prejudice.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
I was going to make it this simple. Prejudice is to basically prejudge someone, and that's determined, like the caller said, you're just making a judgment that is not, you're prejudging them. They might have not opened their mouth. You can just look at them and just prejudge them into, to say I'm discriminating them just because they're got on blue socks. So basically, it's the root word is to prejudge someone. So that's prejudice, to prejudge someone.
Well, let's see. Justice, do you have an understanding of what prejudice means now?
Yes.
Okay.
And hello?
Yes, ma'am.
And I just wanted a few answers to that. To prejudice, to me.
Hello?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's white supremacy. I think that prejudice is white supremacy.
Yeah, basically that's what it is. I mean, you take your prejudgment of people and put it into law and practice on someone else.
But white supremacy is institutional.
Well,
it's in the very foundation of everything. It's in the Constitution.
Right.
It was with those founding fathers When they wrote the Constitution, they didn't include those that they enslaved. In fact, they said that they were 3/5 of human.
I have a question. Have you ever read in the ISIS papers that Dr. Okay. Those two books, which is the Neely Fuller Jr. and Dr. Dr. Wilson, is one deals with the everyday, day-to-day stuff that you have to deal with, which is Neely Fuller on how to handle situations every day on a practical manner dealing with white people. Dr. Wilson's book deals with white people on a psychological approach on how they think, why do they do certain things, how do they come to rationalize the stuff they do to non-white people. Hello?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
here.
So those two books to me are the most important two books that a non-white person could have, because one deals with the practical sense and one deals with the psychological sense of white people on a day-to-day basis.
And see, she also says this, is that it's nothing wrong with white supremacy. You know, it's understandable. We should have that same type of love for one another, to see one another here. Generations and generations removed, that child is going to look like you. White people want that. They want their generations, their great-great-grandson to look like them. But see, they're a minority on the planet. And people of color, if they mix with white, then that child is no longer white.
No, yes.
This is something that they're striving for. What is it? They're fighting against genetic annihilation.
Right.
So that's their motivation.
Right on. I agree. And both of those authors have been on the cows. Dr. Welsing was on the show in March. Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Was on the show in May. You can check the archives to catch both of those programs.
Great.
Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. was also on Cree 7, Counter-Racist Evolving Engineer. He was also on her program in June. You can check her archives to hear that program as well. And she's going to be having Dr. Welsing on her program coming up soon. So you'll be able to hear all of those folks live here on the cows and Counter-Racist Evolving Engineer. Today's show, we were just doing, Justice and myself, we were just doing a brief one to share our thoughts about Monday, give Justice some more airtime so she can get comfortable asking questions and talking about racism, white supremacy. So we're not going to hang out too long today. 301, if you have a final comment, brief comment or question you would like to get in before we sign off.
Yeah, back to when I asked the question on Monday about Ms. Pettitt, and I kept asking, well, where do you get your, where does your stuff come from about black people? Like, why does that come up? What is the motivation of your whole thought process about black people? I said, so she never could answer. She said she didn't know. She just knows she has stuff. And that's what I was trying to get the point. Is like, well, okay, if we're supposed to be human, so where does your mind decide to turn off, right, of being a human, and then turn on the switch of saying non-white person, mistreat this person because this person is non-white. So she never answered the question. She said maybe her question is, I don't know. Maybe that is her answer. So I mean, that's the answer I asked. She never really answered that. So I mean, only way I can assume that is that based on Dr. Wilson's book, it's genetically annihilation. But most white people won't say that at all. They would say, well, it's a system and this doesn't work like this. And I'm like, okay, well, what is the motivation behind the system that makes you do this? So that's my question. My comment before I go.
I guess that's why
I know counter-racist evolving engineer Cree, her and I, we spoke about that a lot, and that's why I try not to get too bogged down in the why white people are doing this. I just try and stay focused on what non-white people should be doing to work against this, because
I understand, like saying, well, you know, I really don't care why, I just want you to stop.
Exactly.
Right.
Matter of fact, a white person, Chet Dedlinger, he was on my very first show here at Blog Talk Radio. He is a former enforcement official, police officer. He's a lawyer now. He said that that's one of the key things that he got, one of the key lessons he learned. It is not about the why in terms of crime and when people are mistreating someone else. It's not about the why. It's about the how they are doing it. He said that was critical in his understanding of how to practice law enforcement, which is supposed to be about justice and making sure people are not being mistreated. You don't get caught up on the why people commit crimes. You try to focus on the how they are doing it so you can stop them. I think that is beautifully applicable to countering racism. Is it 312 or 313? Did you have a final comment or question, brief one, before we sign off of this broadcast? Uh-oh. Are you still there, ma'am? Oh, she might have signed off. Well, Justice, do you have a final comment or question that you would like to tell the listeners before we sign off this program, before we come back tomorrow?
Yes, I do.
Go right ahead.
As far as well, actually, I don't have anything to say.
Oh, okay. You sure?
I think so.
Okie dokie. We will both have questions tomorrow. Professor Frank H. Wu, author of Yellow. He will be here. He is a non-white male, so-called Asian. Justice and I will be here tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Justice X, that means, see if I can do it in my head again really quick. That means tomorrow we'll be here at 8:30 your time, 8:30 p.m. tomorrow for Justice X all the way in Austria. Yeah, please check out the program tomorrow. Please support.
It's at 2 o'clock, right?
If you're on the East Coast, yes, it will be at 2 o'clock tomorrow.
2 o'clock.
Yes, 2 o'clock Eastern. I think I just said 11:30. Let me do that one more time because I think I made an error. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, and for Justice X, that means 8 p.m. in Austria. There we go. So we got all the correct times. 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, and 8 p.m. in Austria. Frank Wu, C.O.W.S, Justice, Gus T Renegade. We will be here tomorrow. Hopefully it will be a constructive program.
So I'll be there.
Thank you. I appreciate your support, Mr. Hill. He is a loyal supporter of the C.O.W.S, checking the program out. I definitely appreciate it, and I'm sure Cree, she appreciates you supporting her program as well. I hope it is worthy of your time. I, again, want to stress, if you do not think the program is constructive, please do not waste your time and energy here. Find something constructive to do with your time and energy. If it's somebody else's program or reading something or doing something yourself, please do that. We don't want to waste time. I do not want non-white people investing their time and energy in this program if it is not constructive for them. So, Justice, Gus T Renegade, we thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to having another constructive program tomorrow. Frank Wu, we will talk to you all soon. Justice, anything you want to say?
Yes, no, I just thought of something.
Go right ahead.
For the show tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
Are they all going to be non-white people or white people?
I don't know. I know Frank Wu is a non-white person, but the people who call in, they could be white, they could be non-white. I don't know. I have had white people call the show before, so
we'll have to check as we go. Like when the people call in, we can ask. In fact, if you want to take that responsibility, you can be the one to ask the callers as they come on to make sure that they tell us whether they're a white person or a non-white person. You want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, that'll be your job then. So that's two things. You have to make sure if you ask questions that you do get your question answered, and the people that call in, you make sure to ask them, are you a white person? Are you a non-white person?
Okay.
Groovy. That'll be our deal then. One less thing I have to do. Yay. I think that's going to do it then. Do you have anything else you want to say before we sign out then, Justice?
Yes, this was a great show, and I might listen to it after.
Outstanding. Outstanding. I'm going to finish listening to the program with Jessica Pettitt from Monday, and yes, I will listen to this one too. Thank you, everyone in the chat room, for supporting. Hakima, I was going to say what she did, but I'm not going to do it. But Hakima hooked me up today. Thank you. I appreciate it. I was mildly stunned when I checked on it, but thank you, Hakima. I see you in the chat room, as well as everyone else for supporting the cows. We will be back tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Hill, for calling in. Other caller, I think it was 313. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate your constructive information. And again, shout out. Counter-Racist Evolving Engineer. Thank you for supporting. We will be back tomorrow, August 6th, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, Justice X. That is 8 p.m. for you. Gus T Renegade and Justice signing off for the cows. Thank you.
That's